What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Probability for UFC Vegas 72. We have a 12-fight card to go through here. We're going to be looking at some props, some over-under, some fight goes, some fight doesn't go, and hopefully looking for some violence on this card. A lot of spots sticking out already. Can't wait to talk about it with Uncle Weezy in the chat as well. Speaking of Uncle Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to this card this Saturday?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to this card. It's not a great card at all from a name brand perspective, but you and I, we've been seeing some spots that have just been kind of sticking out this week. And we always say, man, the best cards that happen over the course of the entire year are the ones you win money on. So let's figure out ways to stack these cash tickets like flapjacks, make this the best card of the year. And then when everyone's like, oh, you know, what was it? Was it UFC 288? 287, you're going to be like, no, son, it was bahayo versus Olexychuk. UFC Fight Night 72, best card of the year because we cleaned up for like 12 units. So let's find these spots, man. This is our job, dude. We got to start doing it today.
Let's do it. Before we get started and get into everything, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe here on the MMA Engine. Me and Weezy go live every Monday for some probability talking, some props there. Doing a shout out the chat quickly before we get started. We got Buffo on the beat. We got Cole Stein, Victor DeJesus, Propaholic, Tommy Unders saying, give me some violence. And that's we will definitely try to give you today, Tommy. So yeah, without further ado, I say we get into it. And we're going to start with the first fight on the card. We have Haley Cohen going against Jamie Lynn Horth. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is minus 210. The under 2.5 is plus 170. The fight goes to decision, minus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 155. So for me, I am on the Horth side. She has a 100% finish rate. She's never went the distance. I don't know if I'd play like the under, though, where the fight doesn't go, just because I just don't see much finishing equity on the Cohen side. Like, Cohen's not going to knock out Horth. Cohen's not going to submit Horth, you wouldn't think. So I like violence in this fight, but mostly from the Horth side. So I just played the Horth inside the distance. If I was forced to bet a total, it would be on that under, just due to the fact that I do like Horth to get a finish here. Cohen makes a ton of mistakes on the mat. She's been sub twice, and she's been in a bunch of bad spots on the mat. So I like the unders here, if anything. Weezy, what's sticking out on the first fight of the night?
Well, with Jamie Lynn Horth, as we can see in this line right here, all three of her fights that have been scheduled for 3 rounds have finished inside the distance, as well as both of her 5-round fights have finished inside the distance as well. 100% finish rate for Jamie Lynn Horth in her young career here. And we got Cohen. She's had 6 of 9 fights finish inside the distance. So 75% of their outside the UFC experience that was scheduled for 3 rounds has finished inside the distance. In addition to that, you know, Horth, if we just want to throw those extra 2 fights that did finish in there, you know, we're talking now, instead of 9 of 12, we're talking about 11 of 13. And 11 divided by 13, everybody knows that that's 86 or 84.61%, Brady. Pretty high number when we're only paying 39.22% here for the fight doesn't go to decision. And a good way to think of this is we've got a kill or be killed fighter not really or be killed, but Jamie Lynn Horth has finished all of her professional fights. So somebody with a 100% finish rate making their debut up at the UFC level could be adrenaline dumps. There could be nerves. You know, we could see a finish either way here. And plus 155 for the fight doesn't go is 2.8% overpriced when compared to the line, when compared to the benchmark for the division, Brady. But usually when we see somebody with a 100% finish rate, we're seeing that number somewhere around 15 or 20%. I mean, even if we were to just skip ahead here to like Edgar Alexychuk, these fight doesn't go to decision lines are overpriced by 13.5%. Here they're only overpriced by 2.8. Definitely like this plus 155. I think that's a pretty good look. And once again, I didn't bring my little notebook in here to write it down. So, yeah, that's where I'm at for this one, man. I like violence in this spot. And yeah, and to my guy Tommy Under is absolutely right, Brady. Squamish British Columbia, stand up. Your girl, Jamie Lynn Horth, is going to be making her UFC debut on Saturday.
Let's go. Yeah, I like the under. I got a little bit greedy though, and I went with Horth inside the distance at plus 255, hoping to hit kind of a home run there, but we will see what happens with that. We'll move on to the next fight then, Weezy. We have Brian Kelleher going against Journey Newson. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 160, the under 2.5 plus 130. The fight goes to decision minus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 110. Stylistically, my read is Kelleher going out here, getting takedowns, grinding out a decision. But I could definitely see path for both guys to finish. Brian Kelleher is very dangerous, whether it's on the feet, he has power. On the mat, he has a good submission game. Journey Newson, a black belt. Kelleher's been subbed a lot. So I could see ways for this to finish, but my read is that fight goes, but don't know if he'll be touching anything in this fight from a prop perspective. Weezy, anything sticking out here in this fight?
We got a trifecta bet here, my friend. We got and the fight doesn't go to decision, right? We're 1.27% underpriced when we compare that 47.62% implied probability of the line to the 48.89% fight doesn't go to decision benchmark for 135-pound fights that are scheduled for 3 rounds. Then we see in a 20-fight sample size here that 12 of the 20 fights between Kelleher and Newson have finished inside the distance. So that's a 60% finish rate, but we're only paying 47% on the violence line. That's underpriced by 12.38% when we compare that number to that number. And then when we compare this number to this number, we're getting an 11.11% break. These guys are finishing inside the distance at an 11% rate higher than what the division does as a whole. It's a trifecta bet. I don't necessarily get in the habit of ignoring trifecta bets, especially when they're plus money. So plus 110, fight doesn't go to decision. That is the spot that I'm looking to play in this one, Brady. Even though stylistically I kind of tend to agree with you, the data loves this. It's very underpriced. And if we're just going to be agnostic about it and realize that some fights finish and some fights don't, and we want to be really concerned about where that line is priced, I think we got to bet the under here. And I'm going to go get my book so I don't forget anything at the end of the show, man.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I bet the under in the Kelleher-Kroom fight, and I bet the under in the Domingo Plarte fight, I believe. So, yeah, I got burned on both of those, but maybe go back to the well here on some Brian Kelleher violence. He does have a couple finishes. He finished Ray Rodriguez, finished Hunter Azure, Ode Osborne. He also finished Damian Stasiak and then Alcantara as well. But him not finishing Kroom and Pilarte is probably the one thing that scares me away. But hey, it could happen here. So that is definitely one I'll be considering. Weezy, I'm not sure where that line's going to go. It looks like money is coming in on, it's about staying the same. So we'll see. Move on to the next fight, though. We have Stephanie Edgar going against
Irina Alexychuk.
Irina Alexychuk. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 161, the under 2.5 rounds plus 131. The fight goes minus 130. The fight doesn't go is plus 100. And yeah, I really like the under here. I think Stephanie Edgar honestly makes quick work of Alexychuk. This fight's going to hit the mat. Alexychuk makes a lot of mistakes on the mat. Edgar's very good. Edgar's finished, I think, all but one of her wins. She's a big favorite. I like the plus money under. I would say Edgar inside the distance, but it's only like plus 150, so you might as well take the under for not much less there. So, Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have really much data on Alexychuk, and it's really kind of hard to know, how she's going to perform at this level. But from what I saw on tape, it's just nothing spectacular here. And in particular, in Alexychuk's fight that she lost against Kazakh, she almost got a finish there in the first round. Definitely landed a big shot, had Kazakh on skates, gets on top of her, lands good ground and pound, but the ref doesn't stop the fight. With about a minute left in that first round, you could tell Alexychuk is gassed. Kazakh gets a reverse and then winds up almost finishing with a rear naked choke. So, we could see even Alexychuk land a big shot on the feet. We could see Edgar land a big shot on the feet because they both are shitty strikers, but they both throw with power. So, I could see either one of them potentially getting caught. And then in addition to that, Brady, I kind of feel like Edgar, having finished four of her 5 fights have finished inside the distance at the UFC level. The only one that didn't was against Tracy Cortez. And Tracy Cortez, her fights never finish inside the distance. So, plus 100 is an overpayment by about 13.5%. The under 2.5 at plus 131 overpaying by about 13% when we compare it to the betting lines. But we've got 80% finish rates here for both the under 2.5 and the fight doesn't go to decision. And as a matter of fact, for the fight doesn't start round 3, Edgar's fights are 4 out of 5 of them haven't even seen the third round, much less went to decision. So I think I'd rather play the under 2.5 here at plus 131 or even the under 1.5, because I kind of feel like if Alexychuk isn't on Edgar's level grappling, it's going to end early. And if she is, then I think it probably goes to decision. But I'm assuming that there's going to be a skill gap here on the ground with Stephanie Edgar. She's a fantastic submission grappler, and she's shown that over and over again at the UFC level. And from what I've seen from Alexychuk, I have no reason to believe that she's going to be in the same category with Edgar on the ground. So yeah, I kind of like that under 2.5, and I might even like a fight doesn't start round 3 or an under 1.5, just getting greedy, saying the best chance for Edgar to catch that sub is when they're both dry early in the fight.
Yeah, I am personally picking an Edgar first round submission. I think she kind of runs right through her. So yeah, I'm already on the under, and I'm probably going to add on at some type of way, whether it's maybe adding on to the under, the fight doesn't go, or Edgar inside the distance. But yeah, I do like violence quite a bit, especially at plus money in that fight. Not sure what Alexychuk is doing in the UFC, but maybe she can prove me wrong. But from what I've seen, I don't really like her. Let's move on to the next fight. We have Charles Johnson going against Cody Durden. We have the under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 210. The under 2.5 is plus 170. The fight goes to decision minus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 155. I think this is tied for the most juiced over on the entire card. And yeah, it makes sense. Charles Johnson's never been finished. Very, very tough. Charles Johnson, not really a finisher unless he's going against Jimmy Flick. I think this fight probably does go to decision here, but not sure I'm going to lay the minus 190. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, this line appears to be, like you said, the non-violence lines. You could see they're shaded here by about 10% overpriced, 7.3% overpriced. Then we see 5% underpriced, 3% underpriced. So clearly the books are trying to push people towards the violence side here by underpricing those violence lines a little bit in accordance to the benchmark, because 60% of these guys' fights have went to decision. So you're seeing the 67% on the over 2.5, the 65% price on the fight goes to decision. The data really isn't telling us much of a story here, but at the UFC level, Cody Durden, all of his fights that have finished in the first round. Charles Johnson, all the fights that finished in the first round. Cody Durden's got power in his hands early too. He sparked Mota in the first round, landed a huge 1-2, wound up following up with a takedown and won that round convincingly. He knocked out JP Bays in the first round. We've seen him land big shots in the first round. So 24.5% is like the benchmark for fight doesn't start round 2 in flyweight fights. If I'm playing violence here, I want to play the fight doesn't start round 2, because it's the same percentage as fight doesn't go to decision. So I feel like that's easily going to be the best line to play data-wise for this fight, is because if you're on that violence side, why play fight doesn't go to decision when neither one of these guys is a second round finish and neither one of these guys has a third round finish at the UFC level? If they're both front loaded for finishes, play it and get greedy for fight doesn't start round 2. Otherwise, I'm completely staying away here. But we don't have a fight doesn't start round 2 line yet, so there's really not much to talk about for this one.
Yep, I'm going to be passing myself on this one. So staying away from that one from a time prop perspective, personally. Weezy, what's the next fight you got there?
The next fight is going to be Quinlan versus, which we have Quinlan versus Waters.
All right, yeah. So for Quinlan versus Waters, I'm gonna refresh. Yeah, they don't still have it, so we're gonna go to 5 dimes. So we have the over under is set at 2.5 rounds, and the over no, it's set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 minus 115. The under 1.5 is minus 115. Yeah, I was hoping for a plus money under 1.5, but that's not going to happen whatsoever. And they actually have a 2.5 as well. The over 2.5 plus 180. The under 2.5 is minus 240. I think this is probably the most violent fight on the entire card. We don't have a. Oh, we do. The fight doesn't go as minus 350, and then the fight goes to decision is plus 250. I like violence here, but not sure I'm going to be able to play it at these price tags here, Weezy.
Yeah, that the under 1.5 opening at minus 115 is that's just not bettable. You just don't lay that kind of juice. And this is more of a narrative based thing, in my opinion, Brady, because only 61% of these guys' 13 combined fights have actually finished under 1.5 rounds outside of the UFC. So, and I know one of those was a steroid-laden knockout by Josh Quinlan over Logan Urban on Dana White's Contender Series, and Logan Urban took that fight on 3 days' notice and was 5 weeks removed from another fight that had went into the second round. So Quinlan is kind of one at a time. He throws with 100% power, and we've got Trey Waters coming in. What did we say? This will be 2 weeks removed from his last fight by the time they fight.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks removed from his last weight cut. He's a 6'5" welterweight. And now he's not only made that cut once in a month, he's going to be making it twice in a 2-week period. So I think the reason that this is so juiced to the tits right here is because of the narrative. But really, we shouldn't be paying 54% for an under 1.5 when these guys are only finishing regional scene competition at a 61.5% rate for under 1.5 rounds. So, yeah, feels like a stay away unless we can find another website, another book opening this under 1.5 up at plus money where we wouldn't be taking as big of a risk here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not betting that, but I might maybe parlay up the fight doesn't go to decision depending on where that's at as well. I'd be really surprised if this fight went the full 15 with everything going on with these two.
Yeah, I agree, dude. But it's a lot of narrative stuff. It's a short notice fight for Trey Waters, quick turnaround, 2 weight cuts, 2 fights in a short period of time. The narrative loves the under here. The price is very expensive.
Yep, as expected. I knew it'd be very, very juiced with these two, both incredible finishers. But yeah, we'll move on to another fight with some violence, though. And we have the Natan Levy fight going against Pete Rodriguez. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 175. The under 2.5 is minus 215. The fight goes to decision plus 195. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 250 here. And yeah, I'm on the under 2.5. I also have the fight doesn't go to decision parlayed here. And then I'm also going to potentially add like a Pete Rodriguez KO1 sprinkle. And then I'll probably be sprinkling the Levy sub props 2 and 3. I'm all over violence in this fight. If this fight goes to decision, my ass probably gets shaved today. And that's because Pete Rodriguez, the guy, has never seen a third round. He's never seen a decision, never seen a second round. He's never even seen 3 minutes into a first round. This guy gets in and he gets out, has a ton of power on the feet, throws with bad intentions. And then there's just question marks. What does he look like in the second round, the third round? What does his ground game look like? So I think it's Rodriguez early, or I think it's Levy late. Could even be early as well if Rodriguez's ground game's terrible. But I like violence here, and it's not completely a crazy price like we see the Quinlan fight, or like we see, we'll talk about the Vieira fight in a little bit. Minus 250 for that fight doesn't go. And actually opened up minus 230. So money's already coming in on that, and rightfully so. It's a Pete Rodriguez fight. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, violence is the way on this fight. I told Brady, I'm like, I'm going to need to crash on your couch if Rodriguez Levy goes the distance. And he goes, dude, I'm going to be homeless. You're not going to have to find somebody else's couch to crash on because it's going to be bad for me too. So let me know if anyone is not betting this violent spot. I might need a couch to crash on for a minute because this fight's finishing inside the distance. This guy Rodriguez is never even seen a second round as a professional. Like we said, 180 seconds is as long as he's ever fought at the professional level. And Natan Levy's chinny for sure. And we don't even know what Pete Rodriguez's ground game looks like. So definitely love the unders here, whether it's the under 2.5 or the fight doesn't go to decision. I've parlayed the under 2.5 with the money line. I've got the prize picks under 9.75 minutes for Levy, under 3.5 takedowns for Levy, under significant strikes for Levy. You know, it's just this fight's going to finish fast. Whether it be Levy getting a takedown, working for an arm triangle or something, or Pete Rodriguez just walking him down and landing a big shot on that chin. So love the unders here. I think it's a fantastic parlay piece, that under 2.5 minus 205 right now, I think, on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Yep, I like it. I like it quite a bit. I think we're getting it at a reasonable price because Levy has went the distance, I believe, in all three of his UFC fights, but he's fighting Pete Rodriguez. So we'll see. I thought he would finish Genaro Valdez, or I thought Valdez would finish Levy. That didn't happen, but going right back to the violence here.
Well, Valdez is crazy durable when he's not getting punched in the face 73 times in the first round.
Mm-hmm. And he usually fights like he's on crack, but for that fight, for some reason, he fought composed, which was weird.
Yep. Pete Rodriguez is going to walk this dude down, and if he gets taken down, there's no evidence of what Pete Rodriguez's ground game looks like. And usually when that's the case, it's usually trash. Especially when the guy has 5 pro fights in like 8 minutes as a professional.
Yeah, and he has been subbed a couple times as an amateur, I think.
Yep.
Which wasn't too long ago.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So let's get some violence there. All right. Moving on. We have the people's main event. Jake Collier going against Martin Budai. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 135. The under 2.5 is plus 105. The fight goes to decision minus 105. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 125. Weezy, what's sticking out on this mess of a fight?
Nothing. I'm not betting this fight, dude. And it's just I can't trust either one of these guys. I don't think either one of these guys is much good. I think it's probably going to be a stand-up battle that goes the distance. That's my stylistic read here. Exactly half of Martin Budai's fights have went the distance at the UFC level. Exactly half of Collier's fights at the UFC level have went the distance. 50%, it's a 51% line on the fight goes. 50% finish rate for both guys, 55% finish rate, which is still underpriced according to the benchmark, 62% for these guys. But yeah, stylistically, I like the over, and it's less underpriced according to this number here as it is there. So yeah, I like the fight goes. Won't be betting the fight. Won't be betting the money lines. Won't be betting the props. Probably will just be using this as a bathroom break for myself and for the dog.
Yep, what a terrible, terrible fight that is. But we'll move on to the next one, which is a little bit more interesting. We have Marcos Rogério de Lima going against Waldo Cortez Acosta. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 minus 146, the under 1.5 plus 116. The fight goes to decision plus 225. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 350. Money pouring in on the fight goes. And yeah, I probably would have took a shot on the fight goes at plus 275, but that's no longer there. Yeah, another total where I just really don't want anything to do with this one. Anything sticking out to you, Weezy?
The fight goes is now 225. All right. Yeah, I was looking at that 275, and whenever I see a number and I don't act on it, it's always gone an hour later. You know, and this is the kind of fight where I feel like it either goes under 1.5 or it goes the full 15. You know, there are certain types of fights where, like, for instance, last week, my read was if Semmelsberger Wells finishes, it finishes probably in the first round or in the first 7.5 minutes. And if it goes past that, neither one of these guys is going to get a finish. And that's exactly what happened. And this is how I feel with this fight. I feel like you could bet say like a half unit on the under 1.5 and then a quarter unit on the fight goes. And you probably don't finish in the last 7.5 minutes of the fight 80% of the time, and probably make a little bit off of that if you bet that 10 times or something like that. So it's either under 1.5 or fight goes. That's the way I look at it. The fight goes is actually underpriced by 7.26% according to the benchmark. But look at this, Brady. This is the key number right here. Marcos Rogerio de Lima has 15 fights at the UFC level, and 12 of them have finished under 1.5 rounds. That's an 80% clip. You know, it's very hard to ignore a guy who has all of the sample size finishing at an 80% clip over a large sample size when you're only paying 46.3% on the under 1.5 at plus 116. Is that still the line, plus 116?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I like that one. The plus 116 makes a ton of sense. 24.3% underpriced according to the combined performance of these guys at the UFC level. 27% underpriced according to the benchmark. But what you have to worry about stylistically is Rogerio de Lima not coming out in kickboxing, but instead coming out getting takedowns and then laying praying on top like he did against the 6'7" guy who smokes with cigarettes, Maurice Green.
Yeah, I'm staying away from this one because I could see it finishing early. I could see it going to decision. So probably just going to stay away here. Don't really have anything sticking out on this one from a time prop perspective. We'll move on to the next fight. We have Cody Brundage going against Rodolfo Vieira.
I got Rosa versus Padilla.
Who is it?
Rosa Padilla. Is that the next one, or is that did they change the order?
No, I think that's right. My bad.
Okay.
So we have Julian Rosa going against Fernando Padilla. We have the over/under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 126. The under 2.5 minus 156. The fight goes to decision plus 150. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 180. Another tricky one here. We have two really good finishers, both Padilla and Rosa, really good finishers. But the problem is we have Padilla, who has 4 losses, none of which coming inside the distance. He's a 10th planet BJJ brown belt. He's never been knocked out. And then on the flip side, you have Julian Rosa, who's just not durable at all, has been knocked out 6 times, eats punches with his face. So I kind of feel like if this ends inside the distance, it's Padilla. If it goes to decision, I kind of see it being a Rosa. So I'm staying away from these time props as well. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, I mean, it's like green, green, red, green, red, 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 green, red, light, green, green. You know, it's spread out. If you're getting a discount on the benchmark for the division, you're overpaying for fighter performance and vice versa. The plus money side is the non-violent side, and Erosa's the favorite, and Padilla's never been finished. So that's a pretty good spot to be in for those overs, those plus money sides. They're underpriced according to the benchmark, and you see that especially for the over 2.5 at plus 130, I like that a lot more because Erosa has actually had 2 of his 12 fights finish in the last 2.5 minutes of round number 3. So if you're going on the over, I would go the over 2.5. If you're looking for violence, bet the fight doesn't go and not the under 2.5 because you're going to want that extra 2.5 minutes in the end of the 3rd round if you're betting the under. If you're betting the over, you don't want to watch those last 2.5 minutes of round 3, not in a Julian Erosa fight. And as a matter of fact, just because of the way Erosa fights, if you're betting the over, maybe just go the fight starts round 3 because Erosa is kind of like one of those 3rd round mythical creatures like Charles Jourdain, and they've actually fought each other. And what happened in that fight? We got a 3rd round submission, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way that I would look at this stylistically and with the data, is that if you're on the over side, the over 2.5 at plus 130, probably the way to go. If you're on the underside, I would step up and pay 180 rather than minus 156 and get those last 2.5 minutes as a potential possible finish there. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But my personal best bet for this fight would either be the over 2.5 or the fight starts round 3.
Yep, sounds good to me. I'm on the Padilla finish only at plus money, but yeah, from a time prop perspective, I'm staying away on this one. My stylistic read though is Julian and Rosa grinds us out for a decision, just because Padilla has horseshit takedown defense and get up game. But I think if there's a finish, it comes from the Padilla side. All right, Weezy, we have a couple more fights left. We have Rodolfo Vieira going against Cody Brundage. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 minus 115, the under 1.5 minus 115. The fight goes decision plus 300. The fight doesn't go decision minus 400. This is the most juiced fight doesn't go to decision line on the slate, and I think for very, very good reason here. Weezy, what's sticking out on this one?
Okay, so at minus 115 for the under 1.5, that's juice to the tits, but it opened at plus 135, which was definitely a bettable line. But check it out, Brady. 2 of 5 of Vieira's fights have finished under 1.5 rounds. 3 of 4 of Brundage's fights have also finished under 1.5 rounds. And Brundage's Contender Series fights, I believe, both finished under. I forget whether he had 1 or 2. I know he had 1. Yeah, no, it was just 1. It was 1 against William Knight. That one finished in the first round. So Brundage, as soon as his back hits the mat, he's very vulnerable. And Rodolfo Vieira is a guy who won literally Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world championships with top pressure with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So see a very high likelihood of an early finish for Rodolfo Vieira while both of these guys are dry. So I like that. And it's still underpriced according to the benchmark here because we're paying 53.49%, but 5 of 9 is actually 55%. So we're actually underpaying by 2% according to Fighter Performance. Vieira and Brundage go under 1.5 rounds at an 18.4% rate higher than what the division does at 37.18%. So I even think it's still bettable at minus 115, but God, it was so much better at plus 121, plus 131, plus 135, where this thing opened. At minus 115, I'm not really running to the window. And minus 400 it's not a great line to parlay, but I mean, like, it's really hard to picture this fight, finishing inside or going the full 15 minutes with Vieira and Brundage here. So yeah, I'm on the violent side here. No way I'm betting any overs in this fight.
Yeah, I'm on the under, and then I did parlay up the fight doesn't go, and then I might even take a look at maybe some Brundage like round 2 and round 3 sprinkles, because these are some really fat numbers. Brundage KO 2. Never mind, they got hit. They got hit. But I'm sure FanDuel will have something juicy. But yeah, maybe sprinkle some late Brundage props, because I think if this does go late, it does favor Cody Brundage. Alrighty. 2 fights left. We have Caio Bahayo going against Mikhail Olexychuk. We got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 plus 135, the under 2.5 minus 165. The fight goes to decision plus 165. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 205. Very frustrating lines here for me, because I have a very strong feeling that Bahayo does get his first finish here. Black belt versus Mikhail is probably a white belt. Just looks terrible on the mat. I think Bahayo gets him out of there by submission, but Bahayo inside the distance is like minus 120 and laying chalk on a guy to finish that has not even came close to finishing yet in the UFC. Not something I really want to do. So right now, looking at these lines, it's a complete pass, but I'm sure there's going to be much better lines coming out later in the week. But Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, when this opened, I believe the under 2.5 was around minus 210, minus 205. So when the over 2.5 was sitting around plus 170, and that's a below 40% implied probability, probably about 38%. And we see that 46% of these guys combined fights have went over 2.5 rounds, and all of Caio's fights have went over 2.5 rounds. So definitely, I wouldn't have minded getting a plus 170 for the over here, but it's so easy to see Caio getting a first round finish against Olexychuk with Olexychuk's grappling game. It's just not there, and he hasn't had enough time to really improve it. I mean, even Cody Brundage took this guy down immediately and got into good positions. He just got a little bit sloppy and wound up on the bottom. But, Kyle Bahayo is not going to be a fish out of water off of his back if he does wind up getting reversed here. So, yeah, I think that this probably does go under. But we're overpaying for it here. We're overpaying here. We're overpaying here. Barely getting a break here in the fighter performance against the benchmarks. So I think I would rather go with the bahayo inside the distance. But at the price, yeah, like you said, why should I lay juice for somebody who's never finished at the UFC level to all of a sudden finish now? So it's this from a time prop perspective. I mean, maybe if I could get that fight goes at plus 200 or the over 2.5 at plus 170, maybe I'll take a look at that. But where these lines are currently at, I see nothing that's interesting.
Yeah, disgusting lines there by Bet Online
agreed.
Sportsbook. Very disgusting. But I'm hoping some other books get some more playable lines out there later in the week, because I will probably be playing some type of Bahayo sub or inside the distance prop, but not at minus 120. You got to be kidding me with that. Over a 50% implied probability for somebody who's 3-0 and all those become by decision. Come on, get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's shaving world beaters either. I mean, this is Gadzi Omar Gadziev and Mahmoud Muradov. Even Muradov took him down a couple of times and got some control time on him. So yeah, this is a big stay away from me here. I like the Kyle Bahayo money line, and that's about it.
Yep, I need Kyle to come through as well. All right, moving on to the main event. If you guys have not already smashed the like button, be sure to smash the like button. Also, subscribe here to the MMA Engine. Me and Weezy going live every Monday for some props. We have the main event, 5-round fight, Song Yadong, Ricky Simone. We have the over-under set at 4.5 rounds, the over 4.5 plus 100, the under 4.5 minus 130. The fight goes decision plus 135. The fight doesn't go decision minus 165. Very tricky one here for me, Weezy, because I could see this fight finishing. Song Yadong has a ton of power. Ricky Simone has a lot of power. Ricky Simone has a good submission game. But I could also see Ricky kind of grinding it out over 5. One I don't have a strong lean on. What do the numbers say here, Weezy?
I mean, I just realized I didn't have them all posted in there correctly. So now we've got them in there. And what do we have? The fight doesn't go. Where did they open that?
Minus 165. Yeah, minus 165.
Minus 165. And we've got for the fight goes, we got what?
Plus 125. No, plus 135, my bad.
135 you've got. All right, cool. So, yeah, the VIG is kind of split here. They're shading you towards the violence just a little bit, as we're overpaying just a little bit more on the non-violent side here. We've only got one fight for Song Yadong scheduled for 5 rounds, and we got 0 for Ricky Simon. So we could go here to the 3-round analytics and just get an idea of what these guys are doing in their big sample size of fights. And we could see that 9 of 20 have finished inside the distance for Song and Ricky, and 55%, 11 of their 20 have went the distance. Now, this will be a 5-round fight instead of a 3-round fight. We've never seen Ricky Simon go 5 at the UFC level. We've seen Song do it pretty well, but the fight got stopped at the end of the 4th round because of that nasty cut that he had over his eye, courtesy of Corey Sandhagen. So this one is one that I'm from a time prop perspective, Brady, we just don't have this great sample size here. And we see that these fights are priced right about where the benchmarks are. So 61% of 5-round fights that are in the bantamweight division finish inside the distance, and we're paying 62% on the line here. So it's priced just about perfectly with the benchmark. Same thing here. 38% go the distance. We're paying 42%. So we're overpaying a little bit more here, according to the benchmark, than we are here. I would probably err on the side of violence just because we see that, over 60% of these fights do finish inside the distance that are scheduled for 5 rounds. Simon has got a really good submission game. Song Yadong hits very hard. He's got a lot of power. And we've never really seen either of these guys ever go the distance for 5 rounds. So probably leaning violence here, but I'm not running to the window either side because this appears to be priced right about where it should be.
Yeah, that's a big stay away from me. I would need a plus money number to bet violence, and that's not happening at all. So yeah, I'm passing on this main event. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. We went through 12 different fights. We hit our PP last week. We went 1 for 1. The
Yes.
Silva Cachoeira under got voided, and then we
Hmm.
hit the under in the main event. So therefore, it hit. So let's hit another one, Weezy. There's a lot of parlayable violence props this week. Anything you really like?
How about that Rodriguez Levy under 2.5 at minus 205 right now on DraftKings?
All right.
Um, and we'll parlay that with itself. No,
Okay.
let's see. Parlay pieces. Well, there's a few obviously that that we could be real confident about. For if we had anything on the Quinlan fight, that would be something with Quinlan having that steroid power, and with and by the way, Quinlan's minus 180 now, so he was just minus 150, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like some money just came in on Quinlan, but we still don't have an over under there. But I mean, I think that fight finishes inside the distance for sure. I think the Edgar fight probably finishes inside the distance, but that's not necessarily a parlay piece. How about Brundage Vieira fight doesn't go to decision, parlayed with that under 2.5 for Pete Rodriguez versus Levy?
That's around minus 115.
What do you think about that, dude?
I mean, I really like it. Would like to get plus money, but I mean, I'd be really surprised if either of those didn't hit.
Yeah, and I mean, since we don't have anything on the Quinlan fight, it's not like we can throw that in there right now. But
Yeah.
that's going to be, violence in that fight's going to be something to look out for. With Trey Waters making 2 cuts to 175 pounds at 6'5" in a 14-day time span, and then not only that, but fighting after that, after
Mhm.
having a fight less than 2 weeks removed. So that fight doesn't go to decision for Quinlan. Great parlay piece. But since we already have the Brundage Vieira fight doesn't go, we could parlay that with the under 2.5 for Rodriguez Levy and get minus 115.
Sounds good to me. Let's hit another one without a leg getting voided, hopefully.
Yes, I know. I feel like a fraud hitting a one leg parlay, but it is what it is, man. We got minus 225 on that. Fight doesn't start round 3 for Blades last time, so that was pretty sweet.
Mhm. I like it. Any other spots sticking out?
Um, yeah, the under 1.5 for Lima versus Acosta, I think, is a bettable line at plus money. The over 2.5 for Julian Rosa versus Padilla at plus 130, I think, is a bettable line. The under 2.5 for Edgar versus Alexeva, I believe, is bettable. The Kelleher Newson fight doesn't go to decision at plus 110 is a trifecta bet. And the fight doesn't go to decision for Cohen versus Horth. Don't forget, Horth is coming off some knee surgery too. She had her
Mhm.
knee torn up in that Contuaria fight. So we haven't seen her fight for a minute, and she's coming off a knee rehab there. She could potentially get injured. It's her UFC debut. There could be an adrenaline dump. There could be nerves. And plus, I think she's a lot better than Haley Cohen. I think she can get the finish, just by being the better fighter. So those are all spots that are sticking out for me this week.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the obvious violent spots, the under in the Levy Rodriguez, the under in the Vieira Brundage, some type of violence in the Quinlan Waters fight, but not at those prices. We'll have to see what the other books put it out at. But yeah, I like that Edgar under quite a bit. And I'm looking at that Kelleher fight doesn't go as well, plus 110. But yeah, other than that, looking for some violence. No overs really stuck out to me, to be honest. The Rosa one makes a lot of sense. But that's about it. So yeah, looking for some violence this week for sure.
Yeah, the everything I've got is either a fight doesn't go, a fight doesn't start around, or an under, except for that Erosa Padilla at plus 130. It's the only over that's kind of sticking out. What also would have been a cheeky way to do it was the plus 275 for Lima Acosta. I kind
Yeah,
of feel like if that one goes over 1.5, it probably goes the distance. So that would have been a good bet. But at plus 225, man, I think that's not fat enough.
No, we'll have to see what FanDuel usually like put some crazy fight goes prices for some of those fights like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like those ones that should be juiced to the under, you get some fat fight goes on FanDuel.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll have to look out for that. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. All that's left is letting people know your plans for this week.
I am going to be going live tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time for Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. We're going to break down all 12 of these fights from a stats and tape study perspective. I'll give you all my track bets so far. Got over 4 units going, waiting for some more stuff to open to see what else I can get. And then we'll finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Wednesday on Pub Sports Radio, we'll be doing the DFS show at 6 o'clock Central Time. Perhaps there probably isn't going to be an Ask Weezy this week, but I do want to start doing prize picks content. So keep an eye out for something on Wednesday night that's going to be prize picks related, where we go over the analytics like we do here, Brady, but put it into a prize picks and underdog format so that we can find ways to make money and not have to worry about these judges screwing us over. So, that's a good way to do it with the prize picks and the underdog. So, yeah. And then let's just stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 72. Not the best card in the world from a name perspective, but if we make money, we'll enjoy watching these fights.
Yes, sir. And the next week we have a pay-per-view, 288, I believe. So definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, guys, I just posted my full card breakdown prediction video today. Did a main event deep dive yesterday. And then other than that, going live with the Pub Sports guys Wednesday for the DFS show, and then going live on my channel, DFS by the Numbers, Friday and Saturday, as always, for some best bet. Again, leave a like. We do appreciate it here. Subscribe to the channel as well. And best of luck for UFC Vegas 72. Should be a very interesting card. And again, hoping for some violence. Best of luck, guys. Talk to you later.